Welcome to Evidently Something, and this is evidently something. This is the Fuji X-T2. This little thing will for sure win the hearts and minds of many photographers out there and also of many videographers out there. A little longer than 2 years ago, I was a big fan of the Fuji X-T1. It really sparked love for photography in new ways for me because it felt just right in the hand. It had those amazing JPEG colors straight from the camera. And I was eager to see the X-T2 for myself, and finally I have it in my hands, and I'd like to show you some first impressions.
So from the packaging to the body itself, the X-T2 just oozes quality. There is something special about it, the way it handles, its materials, the overall product craftsmanship. As soon as you touch it, you want to go out and start shooting. The exterior dials and buttons are placed in the same fashion of the X-T1, and an obvious reason to feel drawn to this camera. They are quick to reach and easy to use. The X-T2 now offers 2 SD card slots. Now, to record 4K video, you would have to get a fast memory card. The one I can recommend, for example, is this one from Lexar. I'll put a link in the show notes. Speaking about video, the battery is obviously an important part, and the Fuji uses a 1200 mAh one, which does not last very long, unfortunately. We'll talk about that later. There is a new mini joystick knob on the back now to navigate and set your focus points. And there are also improved D-pad buttons that feel nice and sturdy and are quite assuring to use. The 3-inch LCD display can now be tilted horizontally and vertically. This can be useful when you are holding the camera upright and want to shoot from above or below. It has no touchscreen and does not articulate fully, which we grew accustomed to on other cameras, and we missed that quite a bit on the Fuji. But the display feels more robust than it looks, and compared to the X-T1, this is still a nice upgrade. So with the latest Fuji at our hands, we don't want to make this little review too scientific. You can find all the specs in many places anyway. Instead, we went outside and just had some fun.
One of the biggest pluses on this camera is its beautiful color reproduction. Fuji is obviously well known for its great color management and skin tones and everything, and I found this to be no exception to that. In video, what I could see right away on my screen when importing the footage is just a joy to use. You don't have to really touch a lot to achieve good results. You can really import your footage and do some little tweaking here and there. For example, we just used the Provia standard profile and only adjusted the highlight settings and the shadow settings to be at -2, because the default look is a little bit contrasty and a little bit darker. So by adjusting those two values to -2 each, you gain a little bit of more room in between and a little softer highlights and a little bit of lifted shadows, which are for me more pleasant to look at and more flat of a look. I was pleasantly surprised how gradable the footage really is, considering I don't have an external recorder at hand. So I have no F-Log, which is the flat profile for the Fuji, coming out maybe later as an update to the X-T2 wire firmware.
So what about the autofocus? I hear it's pretty good.
For video makers, this might be the most anticipated new spec on the X-T2. We set up a couple of test runs to see how the various modes for continuous focus would perform. The lens used for these test runs was the Fujinon 23mm f1.4. Being a gorgeous lens with great sharpness and very little distortion and all, this one is still probably not the best lens for continuous autofocus. A little on the slow side and also a bit noisy. The more recent Fuji lenses will supposedly perform a lot smoother. So let's see how this combo worked. We are quite surprised by how good the X-T2 hit the focus almost every time. Sometimes though, it can still hunt around a little bit longer until it catches the subject. The focus transitions are rather quick and not very, let's say, cinematic. To use the continuous focus setting, you simply flip the little switch on the front of the camera to the C position, which is convenient as all of the Fuji's external dials and knobs are. There's also a menu entry for your own custom focus settings, but we rarely found any occasion to use these over the pretty easy to pick 5 presets. They are going to cover most of your filming situations just fine. As in this shot, taken in focus mode 1, the multi-purpose setting. You can see how well the camera, once it identified the subject, adjusts the focus and rarely does any hunting. So our autofocus verdict is nothing short of a job well done, with a little bit of room for future improvement regarding occasional focus hunting and the ability to fine-tune the transition speed. The lens coming in the kit version is the Fujinon 18 to 55mm with a variable aperture of f2.8 to f4. It's an excellent value for money, especially if you're buying it with a kit package. It offers an ideal zoom range for all kinds of purposes and is very versatile when shooting video. It is optically stabilized and therefore it makes for a great match with the X-T2. Particularly when shooting zoomed in and handheld. Important to note is that our version showed some heavy lens shake problems, as you can see here. This rendered a good amount of footage unusable for us, unfortunately. Some takes showed only small amounts of jitter that you won't notice from looking at your LCD while filming, until you import your footage. Other shots suffered from heavy shake right from the start. Luckily, we found out that a simple upgrade of the lens firmware to version 3.20 fixes this issue. If your lens has the same issues, try updating it first. After the update, all is back to normal and the 18 to 55 can finally show its good sides. This here is filmed handheld, as you can see. The image is pretty stable now.
Downsides of the X-T2, I would have to say the battery life is a little bit disappointing. After taking video for about 45 minutes to an hour, it's in the red already and you should bring spare batteries. I'm coming from the Panasonic GH4, which has a phenomenal battery life. You can use it for almost the whole day and go filming on only one battery. But the Fuji eats batteries, so prepare for that. Bring 2 or 3 extra batteries if you're out for a whole day shooting.
I constantly struggle to use the wheel dial to switch from photo mode to video mode. It's a little bit cumbersome.
One of the bigger negatives for me is also having no touchscreen. This didn't seem to be a big deal to me at first, but once you've been using a touchscreen on a camera, you really get used to it quickly and it's so damn convenient, especially for setting a focus, changing the focus. It's so much easier with a touchscreen. The focus point joystick is a neat thing to have, but when you shift the focus from left to right and something is in between, you have to move the focus point over that area, so the camera will then adjust the focus for the middle area, even if you're aiming for the right area of your image. The overall positive features of the camera outweigh the negatives by far for me. The autofocusing is working fantastically. It's a smooth autofocus, could be smoother, and it's a little bit too quick sometimes for cinematic focus shifts. Maybe Fuji could do something about that in firmware upgrades, where you could maybe enter certain settings from fast to slow focusing. Should be possible in the future. But it works most of the time as you expect it to work, and it's really convenient to use. I really enjoyed shooting with the camera so far. I want to use it more. If you have questions, let me know in the comments. So go try it out, have fun with the Fuji, and I'll see you guys next time.